Hi, welcome back to my garden. First of all, apologies for missing out on last week. The absence of a chat from the garden, the 150th chat from the garden, wasn't due to some sort of irritating perfectionism. I didn't spend last week wrestling with how to make the perfect talk, the most appropriate topic, that tied in with the fact that it is actually my 150th of these films. How many films in total when you include my other side projects, my chess channel, I don't know, well over 200. But the 150th in this series is a pretty, well, remarkable, I think for me, accomplishment. I'm astonished that I've done this. What does it all mean? I don't know. I'm not a professional YouTuber. These are not monetized. It took me weeks and weeks and weeks before I realized I had one video that actually didn't go viral, but had thousands of people that had watched it. So, what does it mean? Well, it is what it is. I did actually think that I needed to talk about something that meant something. Dive into a topic that I believe is worthy of sharing. And in the last day or two, an idea has struck me which I think is worth sharing. And obviously, straight off, I'm not going to make any claims that what I'm about to say is original. I'm sure it's a sort of mishmash of a number of very good, well-written and insightful, deeply researched talks or books. But, this is what I was thinking about, so here goes. It strikes me that there are really three kinds of things that we can be doing with modes that we could be in with any one of our activities. We could be reflecting, we could be learning, or we could actually be applying, in the process of applying, doing that thing. Well, let me give you an example. Let us imagine that you're a die-hard procrastinator, like me. You might be reflecting on elements of your life, keep a journal or whatever, reach the conclusion that you have activities that are really having a negative impact. You might then do a deep dive, a lot of research, work out how to overcome some bad habits, and then you might put into practice what you've learned. Now, the big idea that has struck me the last week, days perhaps, is that what tends to happen at different moments in all of our lives is that we feel like things are really going badly wrong at a certain point, and perhaps we can't quite put our finger on it. And if we look a little bit more deeply, the reason is that we have become stuck in one of those modes. We have become the sort of navel-gazing reflector. We mull over things, we journal, we talk about it with our friends, we make little videos, all that sort of thing. But that's as far as it goes. I mean, this might be something that is psychological, or it might be something that is outside of ourselves. We might do this about a thing that concerns us or worries us, climate change, I don't know, or our profession, our role as a parent. I mean, it could be anything, but it is all too easy to get stuck in that sort of inward-looking, downward spiral and never get out of it. Equally, learning can become its own form, and I'd mentioned procrastination, and that was, after all, one of the ideas that I mentioned in my very first vlog. And I know that because, having posted it a couple of weeks ago, reposted it on Facebook a couple of weeks ago, I gave it a listen and I thought, fair enough, that's a good point. And it's very easy to do that. You know, you start researching a topic, and it could be anything to do with any facet of your life, but you just get trapped in a cycle of researching, and that leads you on to a new expert or a new line of inquiry, and so you pursue that, and you go on, and you actually never get anywhere. You never actually do anything. Okay, but is doing the thing and being stuck in a cycle of doing what you want to do a bad thing? Well, it just might be. And there's kind of two ways that might happen. There's probably more than two ways, but let me give you two. Two sort of opposite extremes, but obviously this isn't some binary one or the other. This is a spectrum, as always, a grayscale or a color wheel. You might be at the extreme of being someone who is always busy doing something. And it could be a very good thing that you're always busy doing. You are incredibly productive. You are a whirlwind of hyperactivity. But what are you actually accomplishing? Do you have any idea? Perhaps not. Doing something is an end in itself. Being perpetually busy. It's its own justification. People ask you how you spent your day. You'll say it was very successful, and these are the things that I did. Or you could be on the other end, the other extreme, where you know what you're doing. You're doing what you did yesterday, and you'll do it tomorrow. It's the same thing done over and over and over again. And that might not be a bad thing. It may be a very good, necessary, wonderful thing, a daily ritual or activity that simply needs to be done, and it's a thing that gives your life meaning, and that people around you are incredibly grateful that you're doing. But very often, doing that same thing over and over and over again is, of course, part of being a hamster on a wheel. And actually, I've seen this thinking about art recently. It's very easy to get trapped in that sort of position as an artist. You can be producing stuff non-stop all the time, but what are you producing? Of what value? Or you might be someone who is just steadily grinding away, but doing the same thing over and over and over again. But perhaps you're watching this, and what you want to say is, you know, Neil, I'm not one of those people. Those people are obsessives who have become trapped in a sort of death spiral, a spiritual, psychological eating away of the soul. And I do a bit of all of them. I reflect on my life. I journal. Or I have conversations with my significant other. And they're not written down, but they are reflections. Of course they are. And are important, no doubt. And you may well argue and say, and I'm learning. I'm learning all the time. Fair enough. And you are doing things all the time. And that too is probably very true. But I think this misses the point. And I think the point is that these three activities, this is not some kind of bring it all together motion. This is get out the way, fly. But this is the tropics and one must live with the flies. No, the point is that these three activities, reflection, learning, and action, are parts of a cycle. And they need to be parts of a cycle with everything that we do that is important. That is important to us, that gives our lives meaning, that helps other people. In all three, I think it is necessary. In all activities, I think all three are necessary. We need to pause from time to time and actually take stock of what we're doing and find ways of moving forward. That doesn't necessarily mean moving forward in a specific predetermined fashion, but in some sense building on what you're doing. And we need, when we've identified this direction, it will imply learning and some sort of personal development, whether it's skills that we're applying to an activity or our own psychological state, whatever, but it implies a continual process of learning. And it implies, having done that learning, to actually put it into practice. And it becomes a virtuous circle, a feedback loop. I suspect that this is a problem for many of us, that we know that these activities are important in and of themselves, but we don't necessarily treat them in a coordinated, integrated sort of way. And I think that is what we need to do. Lately I've been looking at my art, and it struck me that, I do reflect on what I'm doing, I do get feedback, I exhibit my work, I get feedback from people that way, I talk to people, other artists, curators, I get ideas there. I'm continually researching my art, I'm learning things, and I have developed a very consistent work practice. But there is an element of what I'm doing, and I thought about this, where perhaps I am moving forward in a safe, comfortable way. That's not to say that making a 3.5 meter head is easy. And I'm not trying to suggest that I'm in my comfort zone, that I am challenging myself, that I'm not challenging myself. But it has struck me that perhaps it's time to do something that breaks me out of that allows me to examine alternatives. Not to forget the path that I'm on, but just to give myself a different sort of nourishment in an artistic way. The first thing that I started doing is on Sundays, I play around with different materials. It's a free day, and it doesn't matter what I produce, just that I experiment without risk. And I think that's a pretty good starting point for any of us if we feel that we've become stuck in some sort of rut. I think it is important that whatever it is that we're doing, in everything that matters to us, that we need to take these three processes seriously and view them as a cycle that you sort of weave in and out, maybe focusing more on one than the other at any given time. It might be that you're learning in your personal life and reflecting in your professional life, and developing a habit in terms of how you communicate with the society around you, or whatever. And that's it. I thought I was going to make this a short, pithy 150th video, and now it's nearly 16 minutes. So I'd better say goodbye. I trust you're well, and until next week, from a sunny Brazil, ciao.